Hi, everyone. This is Charles Hoskinson broadcasting live from warm, sunny Colorado. Always warm, always sunny, sometimes Colorado. So today is November 13th, 2021, and I am back home in Colorado after a very long trip throughout Africa. I went to South Africa, I went to Zanzibar, I went to Burundi, I went to Ethiopia, Kenya, and I went to Egypt. And I had a heck of a lot of fun. It was a really amazing trip. I really enjoyed it. And what made Africa so special was that I had an opportunity to meet our community there. I had an opportunity to meet heads of state. I had an opportunity to meet pretty much every business you could imagine. And it had a little bit of everything from safaris to pyramids to civil wars. Burundi, the soldiers escorted us all around because we were on a state visit. They literally rolled out the red carpet for us and had the president's drummers play for us. In Zanzibar, I got to learn about the blue economy. And we talked to ShopRite, we talked to Opera, we talked to a bunch of exchanges, stock exchanges, all kinds of things. And it was really a fascinating trip. We got to see the whole backlog of stuff that John O'Connor had put together over the last few years. And it was remarkable to see how much territory there is to cover. Some of the highlights, I really enjoyed Zanzibar. It was great to see the World Mobile guys, Mickey and the rest of the gang. They're putting together a great game plan. There's a lot more work to do. There's a lot more effort, but they have the resources, the political connections, and the will alongside, I think, the people to make some significant progress. Burundi was very virgin territory. They want to do the national census and a national ID system. That's 12 million people. There's a lot of appetite to improve the financial infrastructure of the country, but there are deep challenges there. Only 2.6% of the population is connected. Only about 11% of the population is electrified. So those challenges are great opportunities. There were some disappointments. Ethiopia in particular was a great disappointment. Things are quite grim there at the moment. And wherever people's politics sit, it's easy to forget it's a humanitarian crisis. And there's a lot of people who are very scared and having a hard time. And we wish them well, and our thoughts and prayers go out to them. And we hope that peace can come and a resolution can come. In any event, it was eye-opening to see just the raw opportunity and the desire for new systems. And it was reinvigorating about why we built Cardano and the direction that Cardano is going. In Kenya, we met with a lot of MFIs, microfinance institutions, and we had all kinds of discussions about new ways to build credit and reputation to the entire MFI model inside the cryptocurrency space. What would that look like? And there certainly is a great demand for all kinds of things, from liquidity to stable coins to new ways of rating reputation with a blockchain-based identity system. And there's some great partners there like Possession and so forth. And then in Egypt, it was a bit of a luxury, but we also got a chance to just see the consequences of hyper-urbanization and overpopulation. About 1 million people die a year, 2.6 million are born every year, and most of the population is aggregated along the Nile River, in particular Cairo, some of the worst traffic I've ever experienced. And, great people, great heart, but certainly challenges of hyper-urbanization. So all things considered, it was a worthwhile month, and I think we'll be making some announcements about the Africa Fund. We've brought some partners in. I think it's going to end up being larger than we anticipated. And there's a lot of great investments we're going to be able to make in Africa, both on the infrastructure side as well as the crypto side, to kind of harmonize the two and bring things up. But as you know, it's a lifelong pursuit. 3 years to 7 years to do a project, and you can get parallelism, but you can't shrink those time horizons because there's education, there's modernization, there's infrastructural development, there are regressions and setbacks. And sometimes deals can survive. Like, for example, the Ministry of Education deal in Ethiopia, despite the civil war, is still ongoing. Progress is still being made. And hopefully, regardless of how things turn out, we think that that's a durable program. But yet, travel's difficult. Personnel had to be evacuated. All kinds of things are challenging. So you have steps forward and steps back, but the direction of the arrow is always the same. It's much the same with the design of Cardano. We live in such a dopamine-addicted, attention-starved world where instant gratification is the currency. And people are losing the ability to do deep work, and people are losing the ability to look at long horizons and understand concepts like exponential growth and understand architectural advantages or design advantages in the long term. The single most valuable thing a cryptocurrency can do, and Bitcoin did this, and it's why it's so valuable, is constructing a root of trust, some foundation where the security of that foundation is unimpeachable. There's not a single person in the cryptocurrency space who believes that when you put something in the Bitcoin blockchain and you wait a little while, like an hour or two, that somewhere along the road, a month from now, a year from now, someone's going to be able to reverse that chain and take that thing out. We criticize the energy efficiency, we criticize the use and utility, we criticize this lack of programmability, but no one ever criticizes that root of trust, and for good reason, because they understand the mathematics behind reversibility, and they understand the just sheer magnitude of trust this system has over conventional systems. And I would argue what we've achieved with Cardano is a replication of that. The foundational layer, Ouroboros, its security is unimpeachable. There's not going to be reverses or hidden flaws in the protocol. We have accomplished what proof of work set out to do for Bitcoin with Ouroboros. And what's nice is we've created such beautiful foundations with it that we understand how to do all the things that you would like to do over an agenda. Fast finality, no reliance on external clocks, acceleration through input endorsers. We understand how to bootstrap from Genesis, and also, if desired, some notion of sharding. And also, because you have that root of trust, you can use it to bootstrap fast permission chains, which are very, very, very customized to whatever computational domain they live in. So that's a great achievement. And it's one born of years of research, almost actually more than a half decade. And there's more research going, but it's in the iteration, simplification, refinement, and capstone nature. So this is, in my view, a Turing Prize level agenda. And I think the authors of the Ouroboros papers, 10 years, 20, 30 years from now, will be honored with that award because of how groundbreaking the research has been and just the sheer elegance of the solutions that have been brought to bear. Now, the computing model of Cardano, in my view, is exactly the same in its magnitude. We often get criticized for performance and parallelism, which is just a joke to me because extended UTXO by design is the most parallelizable of computing models for smart contracts. You have no notion of a global state. It's all local. And as a consequence, it's insanely easy to shard and bring things in an isomorphic sense off-chain into a layer 2 solution or into another network. The problem is, just like when you go from a single core to a multi-core processor, you need to actually design your code in that way. And this is just the beginning of that model. So what happens is that the network stack gets more efficient, you get more data structures in, your block size gets larger, your script size gets compressed, computation gets more efficient, the client gets more efficient, and iteratively, the capacity of the system grows. Now, Ouroboros has a heartbeat. Okay? So it beats and beats, and it consistently beats. That's the expensive part of every one of these consensus systems. They have a heartbeat. Bitcoin has a heartbeat. It's every 10 minutes. Ethereum has a heartbeat. I think it's around 15, 20 seconds. We have a heartbeat too. Same order of magnitude. Now, what happens is you can either do all of your work at the heartbeat, or, and this is what the DAG protocols do, you can have a bunch of work happen between the heartbeat, these kind of different blocks, and somehow they get aggregated together through some process or representation of them, and the heartbeat links them together. So it's kind of like a DAG, and then that, DAG, and then that, DAG, and then that. So that's essentially the concept of input endorsers. We're writing a blog post about that. We actually came up with that idea as a project in 2016 in the original Ouroboros paper. You can massively improve the throughput up to the capacity of the physical network layer of the system. So block size doesn't actually matter in that particular case. And then on the other axis is this concept of inclusive accountability. Galois is doing phenomenal work implementing Mithril, which means that no matter how big, how much blood is going through that heart, how many heartbeats have happened throughout the history of Cardano, that you will have the ability to verify a transaction with a very small proof, meaning that everybody can run in light client mode. So low latency, high performance, parallel bootstrap, so Daedalus can now be multi-core instead of single core because it's not a linear sweep, it's a parallel sweep. These things. And then, of course, there's Hydra, and that's getting into a cadence of a 3 to 6 week release cycle. Now, there's a big constellation of dApps. People say, when smart contracts? They're already here. SpaceBuds is here. Nami Wallet's here. Every fucking week there's a CNFT drops that's happening. PAB is in the test net, and it's rolling its way through to the main net. SIP 13 is being implemented in Daedalus, and Sunday Swap is coming. Others are coming. There's almost 100+ applications that we're aware of that have a near launch horizon, 3 to 6 months. And each and every one of them has unique technical challenges. Each and every one of them is pushing the system to its limits in its current parameterization, instantiation, and each and every one of them is building great infrastructure, some off-chain, some on-chain. And we're starting to systematically work with them and ensure that they're following best practices, like certifying their software and so forth, and listening about what needs to be done to open Plutus up, to open the development model up, to make the PAB better. Okay, there are 3 major updates next year: the February HFC event, the June HFC event, the October HFC event. These are the big changes, which add in lots of new things. New eras, new ledger rules, special accommodations for Hydra and Voltaire, the infrastructure for side chains, these types of things. And then all the other infrastructure being built in parallel, like the PAB, has its own release cycle. That's agile, sometimes monthly, sometimes 6 weeks, sometimes 3 weeks. The same for the wallet backend, the entire Adrestia program. The same for Hydra. The same for Catalyst and Voltaire and its fund structure that it has. The same for Mamba and all the things that they're doing in the side chains. So when you look at an ecosystem like that, what you see are the beginnings of exponential growth. You know, the beginning of this year, January, to where we're at now in November, almost December, we have seen a massive increase in the transaction volume, the number of user accounts, the participation in the democracy of Cardano. Nearly 10% of the entire supply of ADA is now regularly voting. By the way, we don't participate. I don't believe Emergo participates or the foundation in voting. So this is all grassroots. 10% of the entire supply, nor do exchanges participate. So that's grassroots. You've seen enormous amounts of increase in participation, and you've seen the birth of the programming model. Now, there's a long tail to Ouroboros-related tasks that are going to be swept up next year. There's a huge agenda now to optimize things because correctness has been achieved. There's a huge agenda to begin wiring on the infrastructure of layer 2 solutions and the side chains. And when you project this over a 3 to 5 year period, a 5 to 10 year period, a 10 to 20 year period, the theoretical foundations are sound. We know that those foundations can be iterated, evolved, and scaled up. The community keeps growing. It's not declining. The transaction volume continues to grow. The demand continues to grow. There's a recursive nature to the system where it bootstraps its own evolution. The democracy of the system continues to grow and get more refined and more elegant and stronger. And the roots are still there. The focus on correctness, the peer review roots, the fact that the software is significantly more reliable, and its tendency to evolve the tools of correctness to become more commercializable and user-friendly. So when you look at those trends, combined with the fact that there's a continent with 1.2 billion people that aren't going online anytime soon to Solana, Ethereum, EOS, or Tezos, or Algorand, or other solutions, but they will go online to Cardano through Prism and other solutions. and you look at the real use cases, from microfinance to what we're starting to see with the beginnings of a metaverse and the spatial web, what you see with voting as a service, governance as a service, and all the innovation that's coming from these 100-some dApp developers that are going to launch, and then probably 2,000 more will be funded and ready to go in the coming years. All of those trends indicate that this is a very healthy ecosystem. So then why is there all this Twitter criticism? Why is all this criticism on Reddit? Why is there all this criticism floating around? Because everybody lives like this. They can't see the exponential trends. They can't understand exotic new things, and they live in this move faster, break things mentality, and they live with different KPIs. And they define success by a price metric, which you never can win. They define success by vanity things like, oh, I don't know, how many mentions did we get on CoinDesk today, or on Twitter today, or Reddit? What are our social signals and so forth? But they don't go back to fundamentals, crypto fundamentals. And they continue to forget that the slowest, least advanced, and the first cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, is still the largest and most prominent. And for the foreseeable future, it will be that way, because it has the right fundamentals and it has the right trust engine. Cardano's trust engine is unimpeachable in my view. It's not going anywhere. It's not going anywhere. It's not going to change. It's going to continue to evolve and advance in capabilities and speed and reliability and functionality. But the root of trust is now there, upon which we can bootstrap great high performance infrastructure. And we can bootstrap so many other ecosystems. It can be used to launch other cryptocurrencies. That's an enormous accomplishment. It took Bitcoin a much longer period of time to reach that level of stability. It wasn't until about 2013, from 2009, did Bitcoin achieve that. We achieved that, I would argue, in 2020, 2021. And we now have demonstrated this new programming model, which is the programming model Bitcoin should have had at launch. They recuse themselves from it, and they're not going to go towards it anytime soon. Even if they want to chase it, it'll take them 10 years to get there, which gives us a very long window of time to chase it. So I'm at peace, and I'm incredibly comfortable with the decisions that were made, the design decisions, the architectural decisions, and the rate of progress that we have. And I look at all the trends, all the extrapolations, the commercial demand. Things are speeding up. They're not slowing down. And the ecosystem's best days are definitely ahead of us. And I don't really pay much attention to the critics. And I don't really pay much attention to Twitter. And my plea to you is don't either. Think for yourself. Take a look at the trends. Take a look at the exponential growth. Take a look at the progress. Take a look at the things that have been achieved, the rate of growth. Take a look at the scientific achievements that are incumbent there, and realize that they're built in bedrock, and take a look at how fast new things are coming. It was just yesterday when we had the September HFC event. Now the PAB is nearly out. And there's this ecosystem of developers. People are already talking about token distributions of applications on Cardano. It wasn't too long ago that people said we're just a wallet. There's nothing there. Cardano doesn't exist. It's smoke and mirrors. And now they're, oh, well, it exists, but it's too slow. And then when we're faster, it'll exist, but it's got a wonky model nobody understands. And then it exists, and then all these abstractions will be built to allow mainstream developers to come in. And then it'll be, well, I don't like it. You can never win. People dig their heels in. Yeah, it's okay. But instead, what you have to say is, what do you believe in? What can you verify yourself? Where's the inclusive accountability? Science is complicated and hard. Well, are people actually following a proper process for that? Is there a heartbeat of innovation that's occurring? Is there code being written? Are there reliable custodians working on these types of things? One of the big things for 2022 is Cardano turning into a proper open source project. Code is open source, but there needs to be a big open source governance scaffolding. Another big thing is using Catalyst to bootstrap a meta government on top of Cardano that's completely decentralized. That's happening. And that's in parallel to the Hydra program, to the Volterra program, to the Goguen program, to Shelley improvements. That's in parallel to Mamba and the side chains. That's in parallel to the Mithril agenda. That's in parallel to all the network improvements that are coming. That's in parallel to every other work stream. And somehow comfortably, that's all there. And deep down inside, you know it's just going to happen. Just like the Coinbase integration, everybody asked about that. Just like all the other interfaces and activities that we've had to push for. And you know, it's not for everybody. That's why Shiba Inu coin exists and these other things exist in the ecosystem. And it doesn't have to be for everybody. Changing the world is not easy. It's a very, very hard, complicated, frustrating endeavor. And changing the systems of the world is even harder, especially if your desire is permanence in those changes. And if your desire is egalitarianism and fairness, if your desire is to leave no one behind, to catch people up, to elevate people, that takes a really long time, and it's very frustrating and very hard. Yeah, there's so much education you have to do. There's so much infrastructure you have to build. That's why it's my life's work. I'm going to be in my 50s. I'll still be here. You'll be in your 50s, and a lot of you will still be here because it's worthwhile work. It's intoxicating work. It's seductive work. Because why not? Jed shows how to build a better currency than the US dollar. At the turn of the 20th to the 21st century, the United States had $4.5 trillion of debt in a surplus. Now we almost have $30 trillion of debt, and the real inflation rate's nearly 20% in the United States. They'll tell you 6%. That's the lie number, but it's closer to 20, and in certain product categories, higher. And the solution is to print more money and to continue to kick the can down the road. In an increasingly interconnected world, 0 to negative interest rates. It's a rigged system, guys. It's a rigged system. We all know it. We all feel it. We all understand it. So the world in its current legacy systems is not doing good. We need a change. The question is, what do we change to? Some sort of Black Mirror, Mark Zuckerberg dystopian metaverse, controlled by a crypto elite, a Silicon Valley elite, a small group of oligarchs and plutocrats who are completely unelected, unaccountable, who control all your data, how you think, your media consumption. I can't even post videos from reputable people talking about medicine anymore because they may have said the wrong word, and an AI filter comes in and says, well, this is misinformation for the week. That's the world they're going to give us. One of papers, please, and all kinds of dystopian things. The world that we're trying to build with the cryptocurrency space, not just Cardano, but the space in general, is a world where things are open, honest, based on foundational things like math and the laws of physics and incentives, as opposed to I promise. A world of inclusive accountability where you can check and think for yourself. And a world that's transparent. You can look into things. The code is there. The software is there. The claims can be vetted against progress and so forth. Now, the world's not designed to run that way. Never has, and it's a new thing. It will take decades to see it all the way through. And the entire definition of things, consent, money, privacy, is going to be reinvented. That's what we're aiming for here. So when people say, oh, well, what about the price of ADA? What about the price of this? Why do you care? The whole definition of the value of things is up for grabs. What does this world mean when you live in a world where an NFT can be worth more, that was created out of thin air, of a picture of a rock, than most human beings will make in an entire lifetime? Something's wrong with the notion of value. And as we get closer and closer to hyperinflation, used to be millions, then it was billions, now it's trillions. Every one of you will be a millionaire soon enough. Every one of you will eventually be a billionaire soon enough. Talk to the people of Zimbabwe under Mugabe. Talk to the people under Chavez and Venezuela about how they all became millionaires pretty quickly. The raw accumulation of money gives you no meaning and purpose in life. And if you're willing to continue to invest in a legacy system that is built on a bedrock of dishonesty, misinformation, and a destructive engine that is destroying the environment and our meaning in life, turning us into automatons. If that's the system you want to be in, I'm sorry to say the cryptocurrency space has nothing to offer you. This is a space built on a different ethic, a different set of values and virtues and principles. And I've been in it since it was worthless. I'd stay in it if it was worthless. I was very poor when I started this space. Didn't exactly have a lot. I could go back to broke. I'd still do the same thing because it's worthwhile work at the end of the day. We all die. There are two deaths: the death before you were born, the death the day you die. You have this wave. That's it to exist. You get to decide how to spend it. So the question is, do you want to spend it accumulating an imaginary thing that was made up by people who were born before you, because you believe that this imaginary thing is somehow going to give you a great life by accumulating things? And that somehow that accumulation is going to make everything great and magical and wonderful. And people respect you, increase your status, and make you powerful and so forth. And you'll wake up every day satisfied and happy. Or would you rather spend your life thinking about the collective of people around you and saying, this is the first time in your life that you've actually had a say in how the world is going to work? We've had the illusion of a say in democratic systems, but the reality is most people in the world don't. Throughout the entire course of human history, either the chieftain, the priest, the king, the president, the dictator, the general, whoever that big title is with the funny hat and the stars on the shoulder, the nice suit, the family name, the divine right of kings, they got to decide how the entire world worked. This is the first time ever we are building as an industry technology to basically rewrite that. And you get to decide as much as I do or anyone else. And it's self-bootstrapping. Cardano has an engine within it that will fund its development for the rest of time. Catalyst. Some days a lot, some days not a lot. But the adherents to that philosophy can live their entire lives in a new economy. We have already achieved that. It's $1.4 billion sitting in the Catalyst treasury. Think about that. We had nothing 24 months ago in it. Now it's $1.4 billion. And it's only going to grow. And the amount of people participating is growing. And the amount of people working full time for the system, the new system, the bureaucracy of that system, the alternative government is only going to grow. And the money built within Cardano because of JED will be more valuable than the money that nation states build because it comes with better guarantees. And you know that it just can't be inflated to oblivion and manipulated for political purposes. And you can stabilize it all kinds of different ways. And when you have it, you know you have it. It can't be taken from you. You're your own bank. You're in control. You have inclusive accountability. How can a system like this lose if it can evolve itself and it has principles built into its bedrock that are transcendent and not dependent upon the king, the nation state, God, some philosophy? It's transcendent in that respect. That's how we spend our lives. And we embed it within the academic process, not, politicized academia. There's certainly a lot of that. No, the good old-fashioned Enlightenment academia, the scientific method, good old-fashioned mathematics, uncontaminated by humanity, cool and austere and constructive and deductive, A to B to C to D, a chain of proofs, one after another. Sometimes we get lucky and have major results very quickly. Other times we've had to get deep into the guts of it and push every single day. Hard. Setback here, setback there, but every day there is progress. And it's decentralized. There is no one institution, one academic, one viewpoint that decides the rate of innovation. At this point, it's now percolated through an entire system. 120 papers now, probably double that set by the end of next year. And that's the beginning of this root of trust, of a new ecosystem. And there are nation states willing to take this seriously. Now, America doesn't really care. The European Union doesn't really care. China somewhat cares. They actually understand it. But nation states, nonetheless, do take this seriously, as we see in El Salvador. And as we're seeing in African states, as we see all around, they're tired of the old systems that weren't exactly fair to them. And now we're here at that edge. And you can decide, do you want to continue with the old crap thing, or do you want to go to something new where you have a say? That's why we created Cardano, because we felt that if you just get the right factors in, the right foundations, the right root of trust, and you have the right mindset and time horizon, we'll get there together. Now, if we get there, billions of people will be in the ecosystem. It'll be the single most valuable piece of infrastructure mankind has ever constructed. More valuable than the internet, because it has all the mind space, the time, the economic activity, the transaction volume. The use and utility of the system will be the back end of nation states. They'll say, why is this election credible? Because we ran the election on Cardano. How do I know that's in the supply chain? How do I know the food is safe? Well, because we use the system on Cardano. That's the goal. That's the process. That's the push that we're seeking. Now, it might take a while to get there, but we have the right principles. We have the right army. None of you guys are going anywhere. So what's the rush? Honestly, heartbeats. We know where to go. Things are speeding up. Parallelism is coming. You can feel it. You can taste it. We're starting to see so much more use and utility. We're starting to see so much more economic activity. All of the good factors are there. So coming back from Africa, being reinvigorated from seeing the demand and the real good, honest attempts to change the world, I want to just make this video for you guys. And I know I promised that I would do an AMA, a little bit of an ANA. So I'll get to a few of your questions too. But I just wanted to make this speech real quickly, and reassure everyone that I'm at peace. Nothing has fundamentally changed. In fact, I'm quite happy. In many cases, we're actually ahead of schedule, faster than I thought we'd be. And it's truly extraordinary to see how remarkable of a community this is. I said it at the conference in September, and I'll keep saying it again and again. It brings tears to my eyes to see how many amazing people are in Cardano every single day, in every place I go, and their desire to innovate. Okay. When can we expect the 2025 roadmap? So currently we have a large working group, and that working group is quantifying the remaining things for Basho and Voltaire. And there's a parallel working group that's right now working on next generation technology for when we can get to Cardano 2025. Now that's going to be proposed, and there needs to be an open source project, and there needs to be a meta governance that sits on top of that in order to actually vote on a roadmap. So there are three major changes for Cardano. Those are the three HFC events: February, June, October. And somewhere in that time horizon, we'll slow roll out concepts of the roadmap. And with any luck, by the next Cardano Summit, we can kind of explain that. But there's already a lot of great things that are still to be delivered in Basho and Voltaire that I think people will be very happy with. And the 2025 roadmap is more about what future markets, problems, and concerns do we need to capture as an ecosystem as we grow from the millions to the billions of users and want to actually run entire economies. What about the PAB? Will it be out on mainnet in November? It is currently on the testnet, and it's being slow rolled through. App developers are coming in and verifying it, working with it. So it's already integrated with the wallet backend. It's on the testnet running, and we need to get SIP 13 out. And there are 4 different ways to run the PAB. There's PAB with Daedalus running all the infrastructure client side. There's a hosted PAB with Daedalus connected to it. There's a hosted PAB with a light wallet, and there's a hosted there's a light wallet with an in-browser PAB. Option 4 is the furthest out. Option 1 is the closest with SIP 13. And SIP 13 is somewhere in the November, December time horizon. So the next 2 months, there's going to be a slow roll where the PAB and testnet gradually works its way to mainnet utility. But it's important to understand it's open infrastructure, and so people can take it, fork it, and release things a little faster. It's kind of like a Wi-Fi standard. Like when Wi-Fi 6 came out, there was the draft spec, and some Wi-Fi makers like Netgear and others actually front ran the spec to release routers that were on that specification, even though that spec may change a little bit. So they could say they were the first with Wi-Fi 6. And it's the same situation here. PAB is now there. It's used. People can do what they will with it. And there's some more surrounding infrastructure that has to be built out. And that's why it's important to co-develop that with some of the major launch applications that are there. We originally intended for it to come out September 14th in the testnet, but it took a little longer to get out because there were some unforeseen integration issues that had to be resolved with the wallet backend. Comes up, things happen. A few engineers got COVID and they had to recover, and one needed some personal time because of a death. You deal with these things as they come up. But overall, it looks pretty good. And it's, as I said, integrated now with the wallet backend, and it's running on the testnet.